The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on the day's Sports Stove podcast. We've got trophies that have been handed out. We have drafts taking place. We've got NASCAR winding down the season and fantasy running back tiers coming at you tonight. That's what's cooking on the day's Sports Stove podcast.
From Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network, you're listening to the Sports Stove Podcast with your host, Vince Stover.
Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me?
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Podcast presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com and use the code STOVE15 at checkout. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Well, welcome in. I'm Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. We've got much to talk about tonight. We'll be joined later in the program by Caleb McChesney to talk some NASCAR stuff as well. But Dad, it seems like just yesterday we were doing a podcast. It was a couple days ago, but how you doing?
Doing good. Actually, we were, so that was fun. So fun to be on the baseball show there for just a little bit. And yeah, a lot of stuff going on, a lot to talk about tonight. So
yeah, it's funny. We did our show last week late in the week, so I think that was on Friday. And then you were back on Sunday for the fantasy baseball show for a bit, and now back again tonight as well. So off we roll. Let's start with the NBA draft. It is just getting ready to get started. A couple of Frenchmen should be going here early, a Kentucky kid, possibly two going in the top 10. So plenty of things going on. We don't cover NBA a whole lot, so we won't talk a lot on that. But if anything crazy happens, I know there was a trade between the Nets and the Knicks today to get Bridges over to New York. And now 4 Villanova players all on the team there. They all played together in college. So that's a fun little story as well. You got the Rockets that have this really young team. They got a couple of veterans on there too with Van Fleet, but they're looking to make some moves possibly as well. So should be a fun night in the NBA. This is my favorite part of the NBA season is the draft and the free agency and that kind of stuff. Once they start playing games, I don't care a whole lot about it. So anyway, so that's going on right now. But Dad, another sport ended their season this week, and that was the National Hockey League. Stanley Cup has been won by the team that almost choked it away. They were up 3-0, and it took them 7 games to wrap it all up. But Florida gets the win in the Stanley Cup finals. Did you enjoy watching the Stanley Cup?
I really did. They were good games. It looked like it was going to be very one-sided at the start. And then Edmonton came on there. Connor McDavid, of course, who the player they were looking at, and he got they don't call it the MVP award, but he got that even though he was on the team that did not win there. And so, yeah, it was a lot of good hockey, a lot of really close, of course, very close there at the end. In the last game. So, yeah, I think the NHL will be very happy with how that Stanley Cup playoff ended up. Also, they announced yesterday, I believe it was, the people going into the NHL Hall of Fame this year. And want to congratulate a couple former Predators. Shea Weber made the Hall of Fame, as well as David Poile, the former GM. Shea Weber, of course, we watched play quite a bit there in Nashville. He was the captain for a long time. And a little surprising he went in right away, but I think he's very deserving. And, he's a great hockey player. And so congratulations to both Shea Weber and David Poile for getting in the Hall of Fame.
Now, this is going to be a really ignorant question for the host, but is it the NHL Hall of Fame or a Hockey Hall of Fame?
NHL
Okay.
Hall of Fame. So,
okay,
yeah.
Because I was going to say, I think Weber had some decent Olympic moments in his time as well, possibly, but that wouldn't matter for that. But yeah, very cool. I didn't see that one. I saw David Poile. I didn't see Shea Weber. So yeah, congrats to them for sure. Going back to the Stanley Cup, though, I did watch Game 6 a little bit. And enjoyed that, the parts that I watched as well. And, I've talked about it before. I think playoff hockey, especially the Stanley Cup, can be very, very entertaining. And the way that series went was pretty wild. Also, I don't love a guy on the losing team getting the MVP. That's not something I'm a big fan of, but he was phenomenal, of course. And he's the reason they were around in Game 7 also. So a lot of respect, of course, to him as well. All right, so NHL winds down. The NFL and the NBA are in their off season. Of course, the NBA is drafting right now. NFL is working towards the season also, which means fantasy football is really coming to it right now. As a matter of fact, just reactivated some fantasy leagues this week. So we got to start getting keepers put in and start getting draft dates set and all that kind of stuff. But we can't draft until we have rankings. And so last week we started this with the fantasy quarterback rankings, where Dad's rankings were way off. But okay. And then today we're going to look at the running back position. So this is a segment we like to call the Fantasy Focus. Our Fantasy Focus is presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com. It's where you can go to get articles with opinions, rankings, a lot of different things are on that website for every sport, not just football, for every fantasy sport out there. And so check it out, BellyUpFantasySports.com. Of course, they're connected with our Sunday weekly show that we do, Fantasy Baseball Show. Today we're doing running backs. And, Dad, after hearing your quarterback tiers, I am very intrigued to hear what you've got on for running backs. I am going to guess that we are going to be fairly different on a lot of the things. Maybe not. I had a hard time doing running backs, honestly. I've got a lot of guys in my fourth tier. I could have probably put more. I don't know. I'm interested to see, though, how we shake out. Let's start, though, with tier 1. And I think player 1, we all have to agree, right, that Christian McCaffrey is the best player out there. I guess the question do you have anybody else in tier 1 with Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey definitely is the number one guy, and I put 3 guys in tier 1. Again, McCaffrey will definitely be the first guy chosen. I also put Bijan Robinson in there and Taylor from Indianapolis in there in the first tier. I think they're all just a hair above everybody else. The running back thing's a little interesting this year. I was thinking about it, in the past, running back is definitely what you wanted to take first, and that could kind of carry your team. But a couple things are kind of changing that. One, teams are throwing the ball more, spreading it around there, and also more teams are going to multiple running backs to give the main guy a break. So it's still very important, I think, to have good running backs. But I don't know that you can bank on, I've got to take a running back first, especially if you're a little later in the first round, and he's going to carry everything there. The other thing kind of interesting this year is to me, there are 4 or 5 running backs who in the past have been first tier, number 1. They could carry your team guys. They've either been injured, coming back from injury, or haven't done as well last year. And you have to decide, are you going to pass these guys by for a couple rounds, or are they going to rebound? Because, again, they're guys who in the past have carried your team and could carry your team. So you really going to have to make a decision on some of these guys. Or are you going to take a chance that they're going to be back to full form this year? Or no, they're not the number 1 main guy anymore.
Well, and to add to that is they also have guys who switch teams, and you got to wonder, will they have the same success they had there? So you got guys, we'll talk about them when we get to their tiers, but you got Saquon Barkley goes to Philadelphia. You got Joe Mixon goes to Houston. Derrick Henry goes to Baltimore. I'm not sure if you can put Dobbins into that same category, but he goes to Los Angeles, which means Eckler goes to Washington. I'm sure there's somebody else out there, Nick Chubb coming off the injury. So you got guys there for sure that are, it'll be interesting to see what they do. What can they do? Josh Jacob goes to Green Bay. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it works out. Back to our tiers though. I'm with you. I got McCaffrey and Taylor in tier 1. I do not have Bijan Robinson there. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Jonathan Taylor, Dad, and listen, I have been beating the drum for Jonathan Taylor since the day he was drafted. I have been 100% on the Jonathan Taylor train. The only autographed jersey I have is from Jonathan Taylor by pure luck. But nonetheless, to me, he is a clear-cut number 2, running back 2. He is who I am drafting if Christian McCaffrey is off the board when it comes to running back. And I love Jonathan Taylor. I think if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, that is only going to improve his stock. I think Jonathan Taylor is a must-get if Christian McCaffrey is off the board. Now, Bijan Robinson, I've got him in tier 2. I'd like to get your thoughts on why tier 1, because I'm not sure that he has proven that he's a tier 1 running back yet, but I can understand looking ahead and thinking that maybe he will be. So give me your thoughts on Bijan Robinson and why you have him in tier 1.
Well, I just think, the talent is there, and I think the team he is on, I think, the Falcons are going to continue to do well. And even though they have Kirk Cousins now, I think Robinson will be a main key in their offense. And he just seemed like last year, I think he's a guy that, will definitely only get better. And just seemed to me to have the ability that I would expect him to have a season above a little bit of the other guys. Part of it because of where, the team he's on, the division he's in, as well as, I just think he has the ability to do it.
Yeah, and the other thing you got to play into the factor is his offensive coordinator too. Zach Robinson comes over from the Rams to be the offensive coordinator this year. He is going to use the running back, and I think he's going to use Bijan Robinson the way Robinson should be used. I think he'll get a lot of pass opportunities as well as running the football too. I like Bijan Robinson. I wasn't ready to put him in tier 1 because I need to see something out of him first, and I don't think I've seen enough to put him in that tier just yet. So into tier number 2, Bijan Robinson leads the way for me in tier 2. Along with Breece Hall from the Jets. I've got Saquon Barkley from the Eagles, James Cook in Buffalo, and Josh Jacobs from Green Bay all fit into tier number 2. Who do you have in your tier 2?
Well, I have a couple of those. I have Saquon Barkley. I have Hall from the Jets. I've got Jamar Gibbs from the Lions. I just think he was a real surprise to me last year, and I think they're going to continue to really use him. So I have him there. And then one of the guys we talked about coming back, I have Derrick Henry. It depends how that's going to go in Baltimore, but until I'm convinced that he has lost a couple steps. Derrick Henry's a guy that's just really tough in fantasy, and the Ravens are going to be good, and I could just see him scoring a lot in close. Of course, he didn't have to be in close for the Titans, so right. We will see how that goes. So that's the 4 I have there: Gibbs, Barkley, Hall, and Derrick Henry.
So Henry and Barkley, I have the same concerns. But I got Barkley higher because he's younger. Henry, first of all, when's the last time a Ravens running back survived a season? I don't think that's happened in a really long time. So, and Henry's had some injury issues in the past as well. So my fear for Henry is that he doesn't survive the season, doesn't play the full season. Maybe if you get 10 games out of him, I think if you can get 12 games out of him, you're pretty happy. That's what worries me about Derrick Henry. So that's why I did not put him in tier number 2. Barkley, I got to admit, I have some concerns there too. But I just like the Eagles offense. I think it fits what he does. And again, health is a concern, but I think if he can stay healthy, he's there. We agree on Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a really good running back. And if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, Breece Hall is going to score really, really well. If Aaron Rodgers is not healthy, Breece Hall is going to score well. So, either way, I think you're going to come out, as long as Breece Hall stays healthy, I think you're going to come out okay with him. Now, I had Cook and Jacobs, and you did not have. I'm surprised Josh Jacobs wasn't a tier 1 running back for you, Dad, with just the from last week's rankings. But Josh Jacobs comes in. He's going to get a lion's share of the carries. They're going to use him in the pass game. I truly believe that he is a upgrade on the field over Aaron Jones, and I love Aaron Jones, or loved Aaron Jones. I think Jacobs is going to score a lot of points this year because I think teams' defenses are going to respect the pass, which is going to open it up for Josh Jacobs. He was already a really good fantasy running back. I think this year he continues to be, and I think he's, a top 5 running back at the end of the day in fantasy football. So tell me your thinking on Josh Jacobs not being higher than what you have him.
Well, again, part of it just not knowing exactly, how he's going to fit into the system. I agree. He could easily be one of the top 5 fantasy running backs. Again, with Green Bay, you just don't kind of know where the running back is going to fit as far as scoring is concerned. Now he is going to be able to catch the ball, so they're going to throw some to him. He will get some receptions also. And I do think he will be, the main running back. But again, they like to rotate running backs a little bit to keep people healthy there. So from a scoring standpoint, I know they're going to throw a lot, and they have a lot of targets to throw to. So I think Jacobs would be a great running back, no doubt about it. You could draft him, and you have a top flight running back. I just felt like, not knowing exactly where the system was going to go, I just dropped him down to the next tier, even though he'd be the first guy for me in tier 3.
Okay, yeah. For me, he is running back 5. I've got him. That's where I take him at. If McCaffrey, Taylor, Robinson, and I probably do Barkley 4 with Jacobs 5 and Breece Hall at 6 is the way kind of I have it shaking out. I think he's going to have a really, really great year. And then I'll wait to talk about James Cook till he shows up on your tiers. So let's go down to who else did you have that I did not? You had Jahmyr Gibbs and Derrick Henry in there. We kind of already talked about Henry. Gibbs for me, I've got him in the next tier 3. Again, I think these are pretty close together as far as our rankings go. I think Gibbs is good, and I think he'll have a decent fantasy year as well. I'm just not on the Lions train. I don't buy the hype. And even though they had a great year last year, I understand all of that. They still have Jared Goff as their quarterback, and that still concerns me at all levels when it comes to the offense for the Lions. So I wasn't willing to put Gibbs quite in tier 2 yet, but I don't argue with anyone who does at the same time. So let's get down to tier number 3. Who do you have in tier 3?
Number 3, I have a fair number of running backs because, again, I feel like these are guys that you can, will be okay with. Of course, I have Jacobs. I have Cook from Buffalo, definitely there. Have Pacheco from Kansas City, Williams from the Rams, Etienne from Jacksonville, and then I have Mixon from Houston. I think he's going to do real well. And then 2 guys that I think if they rebound, they'll definitely be tier 3 guys. And that would be, of course, Nick Chubb, depending on his health, and Alvin Kamara. I'm not sure he's finished yet. Kamara is one of those guys that I always wanted to take first or second, back when he was one of the main guys.
Yeah.
So basically I've got Jacobs, Williams, Camaro, Pacheco, Cook, Etienne, Mixon, and Chubb in that tier.
Okay. So I've got Mixon as well. I really like Joe Mixon as a fantasy running back. I think putting him in Houston is an awesome spot for him. I think he's going to have a good year. I almost put him in my tier 2, but with that change of team, I was a little hesitant to do so. Again, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs here. Kyron Williams from the Rams, I've got him here as well. I mean, again, I would listen to arguments if people had him in tier 2, but I've got him here in 3. I've got Henry here. The guy that I have that you don't is J.K. Dobbins. He goes to the Chargers with Eckler gone. Health is everything for J.K. Dobbins. He's not stayed healthy, so I could understand people having him lower than this, but I really think he's going to be in a spot to succeed this year. You've got the quarterback, you've got the offensive line, you've got the running back, and you've got the coaching and the system that's going to let the running back cook. So I love J.K. Dobbins this year. and I've got him in tier number 3 as well. You bring up Kamara and Etienne and Pacheco. Listen, I want Etienne to be good. I'm for some odd reason, I have no ties to Jacksonville. I just feel like this offense should be good. But I've got Etienne in the 4th tier. I got Pacheco in the 4th tier as well. But again, I've got guys in my 4th tier, which we'll get to in a moment, that I would be perfectly fine with having on my fantasy team. Like, to me, we got the tier 4 in quarterbacks, and it's like, well, I'd be okay with some of these guys. But at running back, I could get 2 or 3 of these tier 4 guys and be pretty happy with the running backs that I have. So I do not have Pacheco or Etienne or Kamara up there in tier 3. And honestly, I wouldn't say Kamara's done. I just don't think he is what he was, and I don't think the Saints are what they were. And the team scares me as much as the player. So I could not put him in tier number 3. But like you in tier number 4, like your tier 3, I've got a ton of guys here in tier 4. So I'm going to just list through them, and then we'll go through yours too. I've got Rachaad White from Tampa, Kenneth Walker from Seattle. I got Kamara, Etienne, and Pacheco all here. I've got Achane from Miami, Stevenson from New England. I think Stevenson might be a sneaky good value this year in New England. They could be a run-heavy team and a team that has some success on the ground. Then I got some veterans. Aaron Jones, who's now in Minnesota. Najee Harris in Pittsburgh. Austin Eckler is in Washington. And James Conner in Arizona. This is kind of that tier for me that has the veterans. All of these guys kind of are. Rachaad White's been around a little bit. Walker's now been around for a while. Kamara has been around. Stevenson, Jones, Harris, Eckler, and Conner. These are guys that I like. I think that they're taking a step backwards this year. And so that's why I have them in tier 4. Whereas in the past, I'd probably have Kenneth Walker higher. I'd probably have Kamara higher. Aaron Jones, if he was in Green Bay, would have him higher. I'm not sure what his workload's going to be in Minnesota. Najee Harris, listen, I wanted to put him higher. I'd be willing to draft Najee Harris, but I just couldn't put him any higher this year than where I have him. And then Austin Eckler is another guy that I think could have a phenomenal season in Washington. He has been that guy for the last 4 or 5 years. I've been like, I do not want this guy on my team. He's going to do well every year. We know he's going to do well, but at some point he's going to get hurt, whatever it may be. I just could not have Austin Eckler on my team. This year, I'm changing my note on that. I think Austin Eckler would be a great value pick as well, and get him. I think he's going to have a great opportunity in Washington. So let's get into your tier 4, and do you have any guys different than those guys that I mentioned?
Well, the only 2 I have different. And by the way, Najee Harris, I have him there because he's one of those guys to me that I mentioned earlier that, has been very good in the past, and you just wonder if he's going to be there again. You always think he will be.
Right.
But anyhow, along with them, I did have DeAndre Swift. I put him in that category, and not knowing exactly, again, with Harris splitting time, I'm kind of interested in Warren for Pittsburgh also. So I had both him and Harris, kind of called it the Pittsburgh running back in tier 4, and then Swift in tier 4. Then I had the other guys you had: White, Jones, Walker, Conner, who's always been surprising. Sometimes I pass up on him and you wish you hadn't. The guy from Miami you mentioned, Stevenson, all those guys I had there. I did not have Eckler because, again, I just don't know where he's going to go. He should be good. As you know, I've had him when he was with the Chargers, but so I dropped him down a tier. But again, I don't think I'd want to let him slide too far, depending on how many running backs I had.
Connor's an interesting one. I think Arizona's offense is going to be very good this year, at least very improved. Maybe that's the better word for it. And I'm intrigued by him. I'm intrigued by Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm intrigued by Kyler Murray. I'm intrigued by James Conner. They've got tight end. This is a team that is really interesting to me that could be drastically better than they've been recently. But we'll see. I don't know. I think I'm comfortable with him in tier 4, But again, it would not surprise me if he outscores that tier at the very least. I do have a tier 5, and I labeled this one potential booms. These are guys that I think could potentially have phenomenal seasons, and but I wasn't really willing to put them up in one of those tiers. One of them is Nick Chubb. You mentioned him earlier. Just health is my only concern with Chubb. If he comes back healthy, I had him as a top 3 running back the last couple of years. I love Nick Chubb, especially as a fantasy running back. But his injury is a big deal, and I'm not sure when he's going to come back yet. And I'm not willing to draft a guy at a tier 3 level when I'm not sure how many games I'm going to get out of him. And so I got Chubb down here just as a potential boom. I got Zach Moss in this group as well. I like Zach Moss in a weird way. I would not have him higher than a tier 4, but I've got him in tier 5 because I think this might be the year that he gets the actual opportunity to be the guy. And so I put him here. And then Jonathan Brooks in Carolina. Again, that's just an unknown. He's the only rookie that I've got. I'm interested to see what he does. And if he gets the opportunity, if everything gets better and what we've seen from the coaching staff and what they did in Tampa, very well could happen in Carolina. I really like the opportunity that he has there. And so I just put those 3 guys down here as this. I'd be willing to take a shot on these guys, even with their current situations. And but I don't want him to be my number 1 or number 2 running back necessarily, but I'd be happy to see him there as a backup option for me on my bench. So do you have another tier?
Yeah, I do. I have some of the ones you said there. And like you said, these are guys that when you're looking at running back 3, depending on how good I did on the first 2, definitely be guys to take a chance on there. I had Pollard on there from Tennessee. I had Eckler there. I also like Robinson at Washington. I've always liked him.
Yeah.
But so we'll see there. I don't know what's going to happen with Zeke Elliott.
I can tell you what's going to happen with Zeke Elliott, Dan.
And at Dallas, but and most of the time in the leagues we're in, a guy like Elliott's not going to be around then anyhow to have to worry about. Javonte Williams has been interesting. I had him. He got hurt. He didn't really rebound last year, but has ability there. Moss I had down there from Cincinnati. The guy, I don't know a lot about him, but again, when you look at who the main running backs are, the Raiders running back, Samir White, there, he'll be the starter. And again, I agree with you. I'm not big on the Lions, but Montgomery had his moments that was pretty good. So I don't think, I think I'd have to keep an eye on him too. So those are guys I had in tier 5.
Yeah, again, once I get past these, what I have as a tier 4 guy, I can live with any of my first 4 tiers. If I have two of those guys, I can survive it. I think and be a decent roster. Once we get past that, it's kind of, you're taking a shot, and they're young guys. Tennessee, they got 2 guys. Which one's going to get the majority? I'm probably not drafting a Titans running back. Carolina's got a mixed boat. Dallas, I was looking at their depth chart and I'm sitting there going, I'm not going to draft Ezekiel Elliott. It's just not going to happen. But I started thinking, well, maybe I'll go for their backup because he's probably going to get more time. And I looked at the depth chart and I go, you know what? I don't think I'm drafting a Dallas running back either. Just not gonna happen. Washington's got a couple of guys. Pittsburgh's got a couple of guys. Chicago's got a couple of guys. Detroit has a couple of guys. There are teams that have those dual sets. And, I didn't have Swift in my rankings. And it's not to say that he shouldn't be there or that he's not going to score better. I really just don't think the ground game is going to be what Chicago does this year. I think they're going to be playing from behind. I think they're going to be throwing the football a lot. I think Swift will be serviceable, but he's just not a guy that I think is going to be better than some of these other guys. So I didn't put him. I could have put him in tier 5. I could have put him in tier 4, I guess, but I'm just kind of out on the Bears running backs. Whereas I was very different when it comes to the Bears quarterback and when it comes to the Bears receivers next week. I'll be a little different on that too. All right, give it to us, Caleb. So Caleb's asking if we can grade his dynasty team. I'm intrigued to see what he's got going on here. And he's going to give that to us here in just a minute. But we have these keeper leagues that we do, Dan, and I enjoy them. I think they're fun. I have a good time with it. But I love drafting from scratch. I love having nothing that I can just work from nothing and build the team, watch how the draft falls, play around a little bit. And when we do receivers, I think the receiver tiers are going to be fairly hard once you get past tier 2, maybe. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Caleb, it's going to be easier if we just bring you on, man. I'm going to bring on Caleb McChesney, who is going to be our NASCAR guest in just a minute. I'm going to bring him on here. Hey, Caleb, how you doing, man? I got you mid-drink there. Sorry.
I'm doing great. Thanks. I was kind of joking when I said grade my fantasy team, but here we are.
Okay. Well, do you want us to grade your fantasy team?
Sure. Yeah. No, I sent it to you in the Slack, but I can just go down the road.
Give us what you got.
So it's a super flex league. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
So you have that quarterback and that extra flex spot, and then a little extra bench spots, and then I have no first round pick. Just my first pick of the draft is 2.04, and then 2.09, 401, and 408. I really went all in this year, and not a great draft to trade your first round pick. Anyway, at quarterback we got Justin Herbert. My starting running backs, Christian McCaffrey and Kyron Williams. My wide receivers, Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill. My tight end, Evan Ingram. Jordan Addison in one flex. My boy, Ramondre Stevenson, just got paid. He's my other flex. And then my super flex is Miami quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. On the bench, Derek Carr as my third quarterback. Bench running backs, nothing really to write home about. Samaje Perine, Elijah Mitchell, Ty Chandler, Tank Bigsby. And my bench receivers, A.T. Perry from the Saints, Curtis Samuel from Buffalo, Jerry Jeudy in Cleveland also got paid, Rashid Shaheed, Dontavian Wicks. I see you guys are both Packers fans. You guys might like that name. Demario Douglas, my tight ends, Cade Otton and Michael Mayer. So you can just imagine I was a big fan of the Brock Bowers pick when they made it. And yeah, that's the dynasty team. I won the championship 2 years ago, was runner up last year, and this year it's looking a little thin, but that starting lineup solid.
Starting lineup is solid, and I love Ty Chandler. I am a Ty Chandler guy. So now it's going to hurt having Aaron Jones there a little bit in his case, because I think their skill set is kind of similar. That being said, he's young, and that goes in his favor too. So I do like him. I don't love your other backup running backs, your bench guys.
No, it's bad. It's really bad. It's a bad year to need a running back too.
But having those two quarterbacks that you can have in the lineup with Tua and with Herbert is, I mean, that helps. Because Tua, listen, I don't know how much you listen to the previous times we've talked quarterbacks, but I'm an anti-Tua guy. Like, I've been anti-Tua.
I'm a pro-Tua guy in the sense that he's in the same division as the Patriots.
Yeah, there you go. But he is a fantasy quarterback. Like, he's going to get his points because of his receivers too. So I do like that. Dad, any comments on Caleb's roster?
No, like I said, the starters sounded really good, and like Vince said, I'm big on Ty Chandler. I think he can really help you. As far as the Packer wide receivers, there's a lot of them, but Wicks is going to make big plays. No doubt about that. I think they're going to spread it around, but he was that way last year. And even if Watson comes back strong, Wicks is going to get one or two big plays every game for sure. And so I think that that will serve you well too. But no, it sounded like really good guys.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Jerry Jeudy next week because we're doing our receiver rankings next week. I'm curious to get some thoughts on that one from Dad, especially because, Dad, let me close with this with you before we go switch to NASCAR. You mentioned Williams in Denver, running back.
Just traded him.
How many Broncos are you willing to draft this year?
Not very many. I don't think the Broncos are going to be real good. And, Williams might be one of the main bright spots if he comes back and can do well. So, the Broncos are not going to be somebody that's going to have a lot of people. You're going to for sure. from there.
Yeah, the Broncos might be on my do not draft list this year. I may not draft a single Bronco. I don't know. I'm curious to see how that experiment goes in Denver. All right, Dad, thank you as always for coming on. We'll talk receivers next week. And actually, Dad, I need to talk to you about the schedule for next week too. So I'll talk about that afterwards, and we'll talk about it on social media whenever we're going to do the show. So Dad, thank you, and good luck. I don't know what I'm saying good luck to, but good luck to you. we'll talk with you soon.
All right.
We're taking one. All right, we got a little delay there. That's all right. We'll take him off. Okay. All right. Caleb's here. Caleb McChesney. He is our resident Patriot fan and our one of our resident NASCAR people. How are you feeling now that you know Bowman's not going to make the playoffs? I'm kidding, of course. But it is a little scarier than what you thought it would be, right?
No, Loudon was exactly what I had expected it to be. Funny story. My seats right where I was sitting there. I was 27 rows up, right on that front stretch, and I was a little bit closer to turn 4 instead of turn 1. I was on the back half of that where they come to the start finish line, and you'll never believe whose pit box was front and center.
You got it right there, man. That's where you wanted to be.
I sat there and I watched it go do and just die right in front of me. So there was people behind me like patting me on the back in my Ally 48 shirt, and it was tough. It was a tough day, and then it poured on us. It was we didn't stick around for the end of it. We saw the end of it on my phone, but we're not sitting in 2 hours. It was thunder and lightning. Like we were like, no, we're good.
Yeah,
but it was fun. It was fun. I can't wait to dive in.
You got somebody asking you to rep some Ross Chastain for him.
Seriously, yeah. I just bought LCO a T-shirt of Ross Chastain for when Chris and I and a couple of my friends go out down to Bristol next year for the night race. So he has something to wear. I gave him Ross Chastain as a favorite driver. I hope he doesn't hate me for it. But
let's talk about the in-person experience at Loudon. I have not been to I've only been to Charlotte. That's the only track I've been to live.
Good one to go to.
Not too shabby. So talk about the experience of being at Loudon compared to have you been to other tracks, haven't you? Or a couple, or no?
No, Loudon's the only one.
Okay. So that's your track then. This year compared to other times, what have you seen at Loudon?
So I've been twice. Last year, the worst sunburn I've ever gotten in my life. But the race was good. The race was good last year. Truex versus Bell was a good match before Bell crashed out, and then Truex just kind of ran away with it. This year, it was comfortable. It was cloudy, barely 80 degrees. I wore jeans and a t-shirt. I was cool. It was awesome. The crowd was awesome. Some people said the best crowd is put on in nearly a decade. No, it was great atmosphere. It was just such a great race, but I think maybe my opinion skewed from last year to this year, because this year we came through the gate with the merch haulers, and this is where I picked up this new t-shirt here. And yeah, we were just on a different side of the racetrack, and that's where everything was. That was like where the fan zone was, quote unquote, and like just seeing so much other stuff going on. And then having a better view as opposed to last year where I'm sitting right on the turn. Like this was the cheapo seats. Like this is where you paid $30 a ticket to sit right in the heart of the sun. And but no, it's incredible. When I first got into it, I was watching older Loudon races, and I could see why the TV product doesn't exactly translate into like what we see on the track, especially at Loudon, because a lot of people, when you watch it on TV, like, oh, it's just another kind of run-of-the-mill Loudon race, rain delayed and all that fun stuff. But no, it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. It was a good race. I wish that I had powered through to see the end of it, because it was a fun race to the end, racing against dark. But no, it was awesome. It was awesome.
So I was listening to it and really enjoying it. Then the rain came, and when it started back up again, or actually when it finished, what I was doing a fantasy baseball show, so I couldn't listen to the end, which really was making me mad. I was like, quit throwing the caution, let's get this race over with.
No,
But
seriously, when we pulled the wet weather tires out, everybody just started spinning out and wrecking. Kyle
Yeah.
Busch spinning out under caution.
under caution, yeah.
Who I took
So
a picture with on Friday, by the way, Kyle Busch.
did you?
Yeah, I'll
Nice.
send you the picture on Slack. It was we did a little short track race up in, it was like, so right where I was off campus when I went to UNH, right off the road they had a little short track called Lee USA Speedway, and before every Loudon race, Kyle Busch goes to Lee to run his late model.
Hmm.
And we did that. We saw him. We had pit passes. The first time we walked through, he wasn't there. But then me and my dad, we go back to our car because it's raining, so we're getting our sweatshirts. And we're like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, Kyle Busch might be down there. Let's go take a look and take another walk. And he was right there. And like as soon as I got there, the seas parted to where, Kyle Busch was standing right there. Everybody's getting pictures, signing stuff. You got the authentic Kyle Busch experience where he's like, he smiles for the picture and he's like, who's next? Just miserable. But I got the picture. He faked it enough to make it look like a good picture.
Awesome.
Wearing my Bowman sweatshirt. It was fun. I mean, I'm not usually the guy who takes pictures with celebrities, but when it's Kyle Busch and it was right there,
Yeah.
I took the opportunity for sure. So I took a picture with Kyle Busch to distract myself there. But yeah, it wasn't a great day for him. It wasn't a great weekend for him. He finished like 13th in that late model race, and that had like 7 cars like wreck.
Ugh. And well, it hasn't been a good year for Kyle Busch I don't think at all.
Mm-mm.
So, so nonetheless, but Loudon was fun. We moved to Nashville next, and I'm excited because it's going to be on NBC. I'll actually be able to watch it, so I'm excited about that. And it's also the final race in the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge, and the guy that I picked is still around. Tyler Reddick was my pick for the winner of the now I missed a whole bunch of other guys, but I still got Tyler Reddick in, so I have a chance to at least get the champion of that. But Nashville's fun. It's back at Nashville. It's been a while until they came back, and now that they're back, it seems like a fun track. It seems like the doors open for some people, and we've seen really the balance come across NASCAR here recently, where now I think you truly think anybody can win. I think if Hamlin and Larson are on the track, you assume they've got a good chance of winning. But outside of that, that really there's a chance for anybody to get the win. And we're still waiting for at least one more below the cut line guy to get a win and steal a spot in the playoffs too. Does it come at Nashville, or do we get a already winner in the winner's circle?
My gut says that we're gonna have a regular winner, or a guy who's won before, not below the cut line, nothing crazy. The last couple of years, a dominant car has been, there's been Chase Elliott, there's Tyler Reddick last year before he spun and on pit road. You had Ross Chastain win last year. I thought William Byron looked really good in 2022 before he had some issues on pit road or whatever. He won the first stage. My gut says that this kind of feels like a Chase Elliott win. I really I feel pretty strongly about that. He even last year when his car wasn't great, he showed pretty good speed here. But Reddick is also a guy that is finally getting his groove back after some mishaps, like in the middle of that season, middle of this season, when you think about Reddick and Busher at Darlington, and then he was kind of under the radar for a little while. He finally got some serious speed back. The last couple of weeks, he was on my up this week in Loudon. It was good to see him back in action. But I don't see a guy like Michael McDowell or Bubba Wallace coming in here and winning at Nashville. It feels like a tall task. But I think if there is a new winner, I imagine it's going to be like a Logano type, a Bowman, a guy who's already in the playoffs. This feels like a track that's made for good drivers. I don't think anybody's backing their ass into this one.
I'll come back to Nashville in a second, but you brought up Michael McDowell, so I want to talk about this.
Yeah, I ripped him. I ripped him this week.
So Denny Hamlin said on his podcast, Actions Detrimental, he said, when they told me who was on the front row, I said, I forget what he said now, but it was basically, yeah, he's going to
Oh,
crash.
watch this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and McDowell takes out another Ford and Blaney. And
Worst luck ever, Ryan Blaney.
yeah, I feel like McDowell, who seems to have the respect of the other racers, is now kind of looked at as this kind of like, they
Wreck
like
magnet?
him as a person, but as a driver, they don't really respect his driving ability.
Well, how could you? I
Right.
mean, I wrote it this week. This is the third time that he's been in position for great points days, finishes where any driver would take it.
Yeah.
And he wrecks himself out of it and taking a couple of pretty good drivers along with him, like Brad at Talladega.
Mhm.
There was an incident at Texas, I believe. I forget who he took out there.
Yeah,
And
I
then
can't remember that one either. Yeah.
and he took out Ryan Blaney, who was probably the only car that was catching Christopher Bell at Loudon. I wrote this week, and Denny Hamlin said it, you're not winning the race from third. What are you doing a move like this? You pass Blaney clean, you get another restart, then you really, take it to him. But you're not winning this race from third, and you ruined Ryan Blaney's day, and you ruined your day. So now you're even further down the hole. So,
and I gotta
Michael
think
McDowell, he's starting to lose a little bit of points from me, and I don't see how he's gonna like. This is kind of like who he's been as far as like kind of boneheaded kind of moves, and I don't see this like magically getting better when he goes to Spire.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. And I think manufacturer has to be nervous because again, you go back to Talladega, he takes out Brad Keselowski, who one of them were going to win the race. And he took out someone of his own manufacturer. Now he takes out Blaney. It's like, I mean, had he done something stupid and he took out Bell, okay, whatever. But you take out someone that's your own manufacturer, that's got to stink too. Now, fortunately for Blaney, he's in. He's already got his win. But had he not, at that time, Keselowski hadn't got his win yet, and he was, I mean, in position to win, and he gets wrecked out by somebody. So, yeah, I think that's crazy. Back to Nashville, though. We talked about it. We're in the closing at 8 weeks left, 8 races left before the playoffs, or 7 races left before the playoffs.
Yep, we got only a couple races left to the All-Star break, or not the All-Star break, the Olympic break. Excuse me.
Oh yeah. So if you're doing fantasy NASCAR on NASCAR.com,
I suck.
You're getting low in your numbers, on what you're doing. Now I've managed mine. I feel like pretty well.
I've won the last 2 weeks, but my I'm so buried on everybody else.
So I'm going 0 Fords this week. It's not to say that I don't think a Ford can win. I think Keselowski has still been running well. Blaney obviously has been running well. I think Logano is desperate, and I think he's going to make a run at some point too. That being said, I just don't think this is the week for Fords. So I'm going heavy the other direction. I got Chase Elliott, Truex, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, and then I've got Ty Gibbs as my garage this week.
All right, we have 2 of the same. My lineup has 1 Ford, Chris Buescher. I think he's starting to make a little bit of a comeback here in recent weeks. He was on my up this week from Loudon. Finally, good to see him running back up front. He's a guy that I think is due for a win. I think he's going to get it eventually. This could be the track to do it. He's in a solid points place. I think he's 50 points above Logano on the cut line. I'm not really too worried about him. It's just you got to avoid those disastrous days.
Right.
I'm not sure about Buescher's record on Nashville. I haven't dropped the picks piece yet. I have an idea who I have in mind, but I don't know the averages or nothing like that.
His
but
best finish is 18th.
18th?
And he's finished 30th or worse in 2 of the 3 Nashville races. He's never scored the stage point in Nashville.
Ooh, that's not great. But listen.
But if you're a gambler, he's plus 2,500 right now, and that's pretty good odds. So
if you feel stronger than me, yeah, go for it. I also had Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick in my lineup. Buescher obviously there, but after hearing that, I might think twice. I did put in Bubba in the lineup. He'll probably be alternate in the garage between him and who I have in there, which is Briscoe, who was also on my up this week. P2 at Loudon, just after getting announced the 19 car. Amazing stuff. And then I have Hocevar because Hocevar has insane speed every single week. He just needs to put the whole race together.
Yeah.
He was looking pretty decent at Loudon, but he got spun. I think mid stage 2, late stage 1, somewhere along those lines. So I really like Hocevar here. And then do you want to talk about the featured matchups at the bottom? There's a couple of good ones.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
we got Bell and Byron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took Byron.
I got Bell on this one. I think Bell has hit. Byron has he's not putting fear into people right now.
But he's
and
due.
I think that's fair. That's fair. I think Bell is hitting stride. And he's making me feel a lot better about my pick of him winning the championship compared to 10 weeks ago. But I don't know. I feel like Bell's hitting stride. But you're right, Byron. At any moment, we know Byron can get it done.
And it was a couple of weird races for him. Loudon, not the track for Chevy or especially Hendrick. Haven't won since 2012. Do you know the last winner for Hendrick at Loudon?
Was that 2012? Was that Junior?
No, it was Casey Kane.
Casey Kane
in the 5-car in 2012. I believe it was the July race.
Okay.
So Hendrick, not a good spot. Bowman obviously hates that place, wants to burn it to the ground. But no, I feel like this track suits Byron a little better than Bell.
Agreed.
Bell was really, really good at these flat ovals, and in the playoffs, there's a lot of these ovals. So I think he's gonna look pretty good come that time. But this feels like more of a Byron kind of race for me. I don't, as much as he finished, I think like P30 last year, or it was 2022. He looked good before he had issues. So I feel pretty good about Byron, but obviously with two heavyweights like that, I can see you going either way.
All right, next is Chastain and Truex.
I took Ross.
Okay.
I haven't loved what I've seen at Truex lately. It just feels like he's always one step behind, one thing going wrong, and it's just not a great place to be in that 19 camp.
He's like a way better performing Kyle Busch this year. It's like nothing seems to go right for Truex, yet he's still way better than Kyle Busch. But it just doesn't seem like it's been his year. I want to come back to him in a minute, though. I got a question for you about Truex. So I think Chastain, again, I've got him in my lineup. I think Chastain I think he's the guy that's going to get a win before it's all said and done as well. Next up, Hamlin and Elliott. Elliott's towards the top of the points race, but Hamlin has been, if not the best, the second best racer this season. I picked Hamlin.
It's just that 11 team's weird when they're down. They just kind of like bumble along and drag it to P12. But when they have the car, they're damn near unbeatable. It's them in the 5 every single time. But they just haven't had the car in the recent weeks. Wasn't great at Iowa. Wasn't great last week, although they did lead a good amount of laps. I'll take Chase Elliott here. I really like the Hendrick cars here. I feel like this is a spot where they can put a pretty solid race together. But again, I understand why Denny is the favorite. He's had the higher highs than Chase Elliott, but Chase Elliott probably the most consistent driver in NASCAR right now. I believe his average finish is like 9th. He's tied with Larson for the points lead. Chase Elliott is sneaky good right now.
The last one is Buescher and Reddick.
Like Reddick was a dominant car last year before he had issues. I don't know how. As much as I'm a Buescher guy, I don't know how you can take him over Reddick right now.
Yeah, I agree as well. Here's the question I have for you. In the closing of the season, who has a better run from the announcement from JGR this week, which was announced earlier by Christopher Bell, but the announcement from JGR this week that Briscoe's taking the 19 at the end of the year, Truex retiring. Who has a better close of the season between Chase Briscoe and Martin Truex Jr.?
This is going to sound like a hot take, but I really don't think it is. It's Briscoe. Briscoe's on the come up and Truex is on the come down. I don't see it. They could very well go winless this year. And it was one of my hot, bold predictions that they would miss the playoffs and Truex would retire. Now, Truex retiring wasn't as much of a bold prediction. We all kind of saw the writing on the wall that, like, yeah, this could be the year. Especially after how last year went when he just fell off a cliff.
Right.
But
Yeah, last year he was so dominant, and then the
regular
playoffs
season
came.
champ.
Yeah, yeah, and then he was kind of done. So
Yeah, the Truex could go winless this year. I don't think he's going to miss the playoffs. I believe he's in too good of a point spot to really do that, unless he has like 6 straight DNFs and, like, has a Kyle Busch level collapse.
Mhm.
But no, I think Briscoe is on the come up, and he's had a pretty good stretch recently, and I think it's gonna cultivate into some pretty good runs here at the end. He could be that winner at Daytona that we're all like, oh my god, he just took a spot from whomever. Yeah, I truly believe it's Briscoe. Not to hate on Truex, I think he's a fantastic driver, but
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Have you seen the paint scheme for Bubba Wallace this week?
I have not. Is it something interesting?
I love it, man. It's camo. It's camo with the orange number and Columbia lettering. It's pretty sharp. It's hard to see because
Did
it's
you see the
camouflage.
one that Junior made for Alex this week?
Yes, yeah. And it's funny. I like I wish they would keep, and I know this is a money thing, I wish they would keep the same sponsors for the large majority of the year. I wish it was like in the past where, back when I was getting into it, you knew the driver by their sponsor. So I hate that they switch around races as often as they do. But I love that they're getting involved with some of these guys and just kind of keeping it all in front. And I think overall, it's the creativity that we're seeing is good for the sport. I just think it'd be better if they stayed more consistent with the sponsor themselves versus the paint schemes. But I don't know. But yeah, I like the music
NASCAR
notes.
needs to run on money like the rest of us.
Yeah, very true. Bowman has a cool little addition of the music note on the side, right above the word ally, and I think that's pretty cool.
And and the number is right on a
oh yeah, on a guitar or banjo or something.
No, the 48 is on. It's supposed to be like what are they? Oh my god, my grandmother's gonna kill me for not knowing what this word is. It's you put it on a record player. It's
a record.
Is it called a record?
Yeah, a vinyl.
What I thought I had a different, like in the big black circle.
Yeah.
It's called a record. Okay, I thought it had a fancier name. Well, that's a brain fart for sure.
The record player plays a record. That's the way I've always used it. But whatever.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's the 48's on a record.
Yeah,
right in the middle of it. It's got the black circle in the back. It was Junior was really happy with himself when he was showing Alex on the video that went live today.
I like it. All right, championship pick.
Who did I pick earlier?
Still Alex Bowman.
Who did I pick at the beginning?
No, who do you pick now?
Who do I pick now at the halfway point? Bell's a good one. Yeah. Blaney's a good one.
I mean, how do you not consider the Fords just based off the last couple years?
Seriously, it could be Austin Cindric to put together the Penske repeat.
No, please no.
I think the 4 is going to be. I think it's going to be Blaney and Bell because of the tracks that got to run late, the Martinsvilles, the Homesteads, those flat ovals. I mean, Blaney and Bell are just on another level. I think you put Denny there. I think once they figure it out, they're going to be there. And then I'm between two names. I'm between Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
I'll pick Kyle Larson. He's just got a different kind of energy to him, but I would not be shocked at all if Elliott's that 4th guy in there. And then out of those 4, I called the shot with Denny. I think it's his year to get that title, but that wouldn't shock me at all if Bell just brought it home and dominated at Phoenix and his brakes don't blow out this time.
I think you got Bell, Larson, and Hamlin would be 3 that are in. I think that Elliott and Blaney would be my 2 fighting for that 4th spot. But that being said, again, you got to assume everybody's been trying to figure out what Ford figured out the last 2 years. And I'm intrigued to see how it shakes out for sure on there. I just hope that Suarez and Cindric both get eliminated in the first round and we're done
they
with
will.
them.
They will. Absolutely.
They better, but
did you see the schedule news for next year?
yes. With taking out the
Darlington
3 races.
and Atlanta swapping, which we all thought was going to happen for the playoffs. Loudon is in. Watkins Glen is out. And Homestead is out. Gateway is in. So I'll be at a playoff race next year.
There you go. Very nice. Very nice.
And Bristol. Now that I think about the Bristol night race, I'll be there.
There you go. Well, and maybe Bowman will finish a top 15 for you.
You don't have any thoughts on that schedule change?
Not really. I like that Watkins Glen is out. I didn't love that one being in the playoffs. Everything else, I think it's fair trade.
A lot of people are pissed that Loudon's got a playoff date.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just people complaining about something they don't really know about, honestly. I think people just like to be mad about stuff, and there's very few tracks that we've seen that have been just, no good. And I don't think that what they put in is going to be no good. I think they're all going to be fine. I still don't understand why they kept Phoenix next year as the final race.
Probably because they really put money into that.
Yeah.
But I think they take Homestead. My conspiracy theory, my working theory, is they took Homestead out and put it in early March, late February, to give it time to put in renovations so that they can make a stronger bid for the final in 2026. Which I think we all want Homestead to be the final race. I think we all
it makes
really,
the
really
most
want
sense.
That.
Yeah. I think that makes the most sense. Well, there's a lot happening for sure. Of course, we're still waiting to figure out who gets rides. Haas sticking around. I assume that's going to be Josh Berry.
I think it'd be Cole Custer.
Really? You think so?
He's in the points lead right now. If he wins another championship, I don't know if there's a reason why you keep him out of racing on Sundays.
Yeah, but I mean, that's interesting. My thought with Josh Berry is the team he has in place.
If him and Rodney Childers are package deal, people need to throw money at that.
Yeah,
like absolutely. Even if they're like shaky on a driver that they don't love, I think that Team Penske could be real sneaky. And as they're with their alliance with the Wood Brothers car, they just clean house in that camp, bring in Barry and Childers, and that 21 car is going to be something dangerous. And then obviously the 3 other charters. Did Trackhouse officially pick one up yet?
I believe so.
Okay, so then we got 2 more, or we got 1 more because
2311. 2311's got one.
Oh, they picked it up.
That's what I saw. And then,
great! So it's all done.
Yeah.
It's all done. We got Haas.
You got
Trackhouse, 2311,
and the other Ford was a
front
Ford.
Row.
Yeah, front row.
Front row picked up the other one. Okay, so there's the 4.
Yeah.
I can't believe I missed that 2311 news. What was I doing?
I could be wrong. It may not be official, but that's the way I understood it. That's where it was. So
lots of good teams.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll continue to keep an eye on that as far as where drivers land and all that kind of stuff, of course, as well. In our fantasy, by the way, fantasy racing, we've kept it good and close. I like this.
No, we haven't.
I'm trying to be
Who
nice.
Are you talking about we?
I'm trying to be nice right now. Okay. And I cannot find the I cannot find it. Anyways, oh, here it is. Okay. Sorry. I was trying to find what in the world is happening. I thought I found it.
I'm 100 points behind Chris in 3rd place. Give me a break.
Yeah, you're right there, man. Neck and neck. So our first place person, he started the year. I think it's the first 4 weeks he got 3rd place in our league, going through, and he would reach out on social media, on Twitter, and talk about it and stuff. And it was his first year getting in. He's having fun with it. And so, yeah, he kept getting third place. And then all of a sudden he kind of jumped, and now he's been in first place for a while. Brett Schroetz is his name. By the way, he's had a good time with it. So he's in first place.
You should send me his lineup every week just so I can copy it.
Well, that won't help you catch up to him if you have the same.
No,
lineup.
but it'll help me beat other people.
And then, yeah, so Chris is down in fourth. Let's see, your dad's in third. You're in fifth. And then we had a couple late comers come in as well.
At least I'm beating them.
And they're down there. Yeah, you're still a good ways, 900 points up on them. So you should be good.
I'll just give it a couple of weeks.
That's right. So we're winding down. And then, of course, you get the whole playoffs, too, which is fun. I like that they reset things. And I really like the way NASCAR does their fantasy, actually. So there's that. All right. Tell us about your article that you dropped and what's coming this week as well.
Yep. So we have 3 up, 3 down from the USA Today 301 live on bellyupsports.com. You can find that on my Twitter at Caleb McChesney, just as you see it spelled down there at the bottom. I retired the MC moniker. I didn't. Okay. It just didn't. It felt too college. It felt too amateur. You know, I gotta grow up sometime. Got to be an adult. So you can just find me at my name down there in the corner. This week, I think probably tomorrow or Friday, we'll have the picks out. We have the picks ready. I just got to type it up, make it look pretty and presentable for all of you. And yeah, Patriots news is still dead. So the Foxborough Beatcast is still on pause. Patriots stuff is real quiet. It's real quiet. Which in comparison is better to like the last 3 offseasons where I'm like, who the hell is calling plays? Who the hell is the quarterback? What is Belichick doing? I hate this draft pick. We're going 4-13. So yeah, no Patriots content yet. And as soon as this is over, we'll go over to the NBA draft where the Suns pick 22. I have no idea who could be there or any college player really in general. Hoping for a point guard. Well,
I'm glad you said that real quick. Quick shout out and congratulations. My favorite college basketball player growing up was Jeff Shepard at Kentucky. His son Reed he was number 3 to the Houston Rockets. So shout out to Reed Shepard as well. And then another Kentucky kid goes at number 8. Dillingham goes to Spurs, if that's the correct team. I always get confused by who's drafting what, but nonetheless, the NBA draft is still rolling. Zach Edey went off the board at 9, by the way,
already
to Memphis. Intriguing pick there.
I thought he was going like late first, early second. A lot of people
he was rising this week.
That's the Purdue kid, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people I know don't like him. They were like, oh my God, like first round, no way.
Yep. Well, there he is.
Has Bronny gotten picked yet?
No, not yet. Lakers
He's going to be a future
yet.
Damn it.
Yeah, Lakers
on bet
17. So we'll see how that goes. A couple Frenchmen, 3 Frenchmen off the board in the first 6 picks. That's despicable, but nonetheless. So yeah. Anywho, that's it for today's show. Caleb, thank you for being on the show. Dad, I was on earlier. Appreciate that too. Hang out to our socials. We're going to have a different schedule for this coming week. And so make sure you check that out for this wide receiver rankings that we do as well. And check out righteousfelon.com to get your jerky. Stove 15 is the code to get you 15% off your purchase. Thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, we'll see you around the sports stove.